Hello everyone! So recently I finished playing Silent Hill F over on Twitch. All the VODs are now up, and I know I gave my final thoughts at the end of the latest VOD, but I realized, well, also I was quite agitated emotionally, and the game audio was quite loud. So not the greatest for actually just giving an oral review of the game. So I just thought I would give a quick little kind of summary review of my final thoughts about Silent Hill F. So for me, Silent Hill F was a mixed experience. I did have a lot of fun going through the first half of the game. The first half to even 2/3. I kind of low-key hated the game in the last third, as I think was very obvious. OST and sound design, absolutely phenomenal. I stated so multiple times throughout my playthrough. The OST was great. The sound design, the sound effects, great. I mean, horrific in many places, but great. Like, excellently done. 10 out of 10, essentially. Graphics-wise, I love the rendering of the town of Ebisugaoka. I'm assuming it was period setting accurate, architecture, decorations for 1960s Japan, rural Japan. I thought that was well done. The monster designs, I love the monster designs overall. Now, in terms of like narrative congruence or thematic congruence, a lot of the monster designs made sense once I kind of got what the story was about. Some of them are still kind of confusing to me if I take the first ending of the story into account. I'm going to come back to this very shortly, but yeah, I mean that kind of goes back to, for me, an issue with the game, which is that its supernatural and psychological facets are not well integrated at all. The combat was hot flaming garbage. I fucking hated it. Oh my god, why was combat such a central focus of this freaking game? Well, because they decided to go with an action RPG. No, sorry, an action horror game for this one. I wanted a survival horror game, a Silent Hill survival horror game. It was an action horror game. In and of itself, nothing bad. Nothing wrong with that. It's fine. I just didn't expect that, and I didn't really want that, especially given the combat was hot flaming garbage. No. Yes, okay, the freaking fox arm was fun for all of 5 minutes. You know, a bit of Bloodborne in my Silent Hill. Why not? I'll allow it, but it is a bit silly too afterwards, a bit gimmicky, I don't know. The fact that it was mostly about combat in that last third, holy shit, it made me loathe the game itself. The puzzles were good overall. I enjoyed the puzzles. Okay, the Scarecrow one, I liked it conceptually, but execution-wise, it was pretty opaque. Like, I'm sorry, a lot of the clues didn't actually really make sense. Okay, 1 or 2 of the puzzles were boring, uninspired. I also just wanted more puzzles, especially in the last third of the game. I wanted more puzzles, less freaking combat. And so the story, it's fine. The story's fine, especially if I only take it as a psychological horror story, and if I only take the first ending into account, and I know, okay, fine, technically there is a true ending. The true ending is locked behind 3 playthroughs, NG++. Fuck off. No. I'm the kind of person who doesn't generally reread books. Well, movies are different, but movies are usually, 2 hours long max. I don't reread books unless they're excellent and they become new favorites, or they're particularly interesting to me and I want to revisit them for whatever reason, but usually I'll have to wait 10 years to revisit them. And it's the same with games. I don't replay narrative-driven games. I mean, yeah, there are rare exceptions, but they're rare exceptions for a reason. They have to be favorites. And again, about 10 years need to have elapsed. If a game requires me, forces me to replay it immediately to get the full content of its story, it has failed the assignment in my book. Sorry, not sorry. I fucking hate that design philosophy. I think it's somewhat lazy. Just fucking write out, give me a compelling, completed story in one go. Make it a bit longer then. It was a fairly short game, right? It was like 19 hours? Make it a bit longer then, but give me a completed story. Fine, you want to have NG+, okay, but give like little extras, little bonuses that flesh out this or that bit. But the actual meat of the story, I wanted in the first playthrough, otherwise fuck off. I'm sorry I'm ranty about this, but I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it, no. So fuck Silent Hill F for that, at the very least. So I went and looked up the other endings, and okay, I have thoughts about the other endings, but if I only consider the first ending, which is the one I got, even though I raged about it on stream, it kind of works. I'm not a fan of the it was all a dream, it was all psychosis type of storytelling. Not my thing generally. Sometimes it works. There's a movie where they do that, and I was like, okay, that was kind of but also it's a movie that has no fantasy aspects to it whatsoever. I think that's the big distinction. If you present me with fucking mythology to mythological fantasy elements, supernatural horror elements, then I want there to be a payoff with that, because I'm a mythology nerd and a fantasy fan. And then you deprive me of that, so that pisses me off. But fine, if I disregard that as a psychological story, a psychological horror story, even though it kind of relies on the, she went nuts and you just went through her fucking psychotic delusion. Okay, I'm not a fan, but it's not the worst I've seen. It kind of works. It's fine. And then it makes sense with regards to the symbolism of the monster designs. Okay, and the fact that Hinako sees her sister as a zombie, it kind of makes sense. I'll allow it. But then I was left wanting with regards to all the Inari stuff, the Japanese folklore and mythology aspect, which was then kind of like there for shits and giggles or mere aesthetics, which again, you're allowed to do that. I just don't like it. And if I do take the other endings and the true ending into account, I actually don't like the story at all. Or I mean, I don't think it's good. It's okay if I only take the first ending into account, even though I'm not a fan of the it was all a dream, it was all madness formula. But I actually think it's mediocre to bad if I do take into account the other endings, which do show there is a reality to the supernatural stuff, which is wild to me. I think it's because the mythology stuff in the other endings is kind of, it doesn't fit with the psychological stuff. And it's just very uninspired. Again, sorry, not sorry, that's my opinion. I find it kind of tasteless, uninspired, and it doesn't mesh with the psychological tale at the heart of this game. And so that's the thing. The supernatural stuff, insofar as you do accept it's an actual part of the story with those other endings, it doesn't mesh. It doesn't mesh with the psychological storytelling. So you got the meh of both worlds, or the worst of both worlds. It's not the worst of both worlds, because the psychological story kind of works. It's the meh of both worlds. So I'm frustrated on the fantasy side, and then if I do take the fantasy side into account, I'm disappointed. And the theming is, it's all right. Because I know a lot of lads online were reading about the feminism of Silent Hill F, and I'm like, lads, really? It's not even that well done. Well, I guess to those kinds of people, the merest mention of female-centric issues is a crime against humanity, or their male humanity. Anyway, discussion for another day. But I'm like, again, sorry if I sound snooty when I say this, it's beginner's type stuff. It's baby's first steps into feminism when you're 20 years old. It's the kind of thing where I'm kind of like, E for effort. You tried and it's fine. Okay, it's the whole Hinako is terrified of marriage because marriage is the end of individuality and independence and freedom for women. And then there's the fucking body horror of childbirth, although that was a bit more peripheral, but fine. And she freaked out and then murdered everyone because of it. Yes, I get it. I'm a feminist. I'm very strongly a subscriber of feminist theory. I don't disagree with the basics of it, although it lacks nuance, because duh. But I've seen this better done lots of times. Well, in literature, principally, but it was fine here. The ironic thing is that it was quite superficial too. It was very on the nose, very unsubtle, kind of heavy-handed, and superficial in a way. It's not that deep and it lacks nuance, which is one of the worst combinations out there. And then it was also too convoluted. So it was too superficial in terms of actual analysis, content, and it was too convoluted in terms of execution. Within the story, in terms of narrative execution, it was kind of convoluted as well, because it had this muddled, I don't really know what the fuck I want to do with regards to the supernatural stuff. And then there's also the psychological tale. And for me, it doesn't mesh. It doesn't weave together organically or effectively all that much. With the horror factor, was I scared? Yes. Again, as was apparent in my playthrough. Unfortunately, I will say, past a certain point, the game did rely a bit too much on combat-related jump scares, and that ended up pissing me off more than anything else. It made me mad that I got scared so cheaply. The best horror was in the most Silent Hill-esque sections of the game. So the middle school and the Shimizu residence. And then I guess the rice fields? Yeah, there would have been rice fields, I think. Okay, again, the puzzle there was a bit, I liked the concept, the execution was meh, but I did it was creepy. I like that section, but the most Silent Hill-esque sections were the creepiest. Like, the sense of dread was great, and when a jump scare did happen in those sections, it felt earned. For me, it was like, oh yeah, the game is allowed to do that at that point, fair enough. But the combat-related ones, I was like, fuck you, game. I'm just tired of this shit. And I said Silent Hill-esque sections. Yeah, I agree with a large part of the fandom. There's not really a Silent Hill game, to my mind. I'm really taking into consideration, like, Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3. Especially 2, but also 1 and 3. Although 1 and 3 do have a supernatural... Well, I mean, Silent Hill has a supernatural element. The supernatural element is supposed to be there in any case, just not the kind of supernatural element that is in Silent Hill F. So for me, Silent Hill F is not really a Silent Hill game, but it does have these kinds of notes from Silent Hill that echo what Silent Hill is about. But overall, it's not really a Silent Hill game for me, but okay, fair enough. So yeah, a mixed experience. I still feel very salty from finishing the game. Like, I finished the game and then I read about the other endings, and I was like, oh, this game fucking sucks. I don't like it at all. But it's not true. Like, if I look at it objectively, I did have fun playing it for most of the duration of the game. Although, actually, not the supernatural, but the otherworld sections were a bit of a letdown. Again, they didn't actually mesh well with the rest of the story, but okay, fine. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse with this. But then again, the ending of a story in whatever medium or art form, it does have a huge impact on my overall appreciation of a story. And I can't ignore that. So my final rating, because I've kind of flip-flopped on this in my own head, my final rating for Silent Hill F is somewhere between a 4.5 and a 6 out of 10, which is a huge range for me. I never have such a large range for a rating for anything, but it's the only way I can really square all the elements and, like, the different endings and whether I take them into account, given I only played through the game once, but I'm aware of the other endings. So yes, that's the best I can do. Between a 4.5 out of 10 at its worst and a 6 out of 10 at its best. 6 out of 10 is basically it's worth playing once, but I would not revisit it. 4.5 is basically, I mean, it's not terribly bad, but it's still just below average, just below mediocre. So it's like mediocre bad to decent, okay decent, which is kind of wild, but that's how I squared it up in my head. Although overall, I'm glad I played it on stream. I didn't play a Silent Hill game, so that was fun. But yeah, I have to be honest about my appreciation of the actual story. So there is that. And then again, I think the rating is also just massively impacted by that fucking combat, which was atrocious. So there you go, a clean little summarized review of my final thoughts on Silent Hill F, the game. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all at a later point on stream or in another video game review. Who knows? But until then, bye!